Welcome friends, my name is Yash Mandlik. Welcome to another video. In this lecture, we will going to discuss ethics and moral in relation to human rights. After World War II, the United Nations formed as a result of the Holocaust. After such horrific event, the world leader knew it was necessary to formally enshrine universal human rights. The Union General Assembly adopted Universal Declaration of Human Rights, that is UDHR, in the year 1948. The 30 articles outline the basic rights and freedom of all the people. The Universal Declaration, the International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights, and the International Covenant for Economic, Social and Cultural Rights from the International Bill of Rights. What are the ethics or the guiding principles of the human right? There are five principles as follows. First one is universality. The arguable the most significant piece to come out of the UDHR's creation is universality of human right. Universality means the human right apply everywhere to everyone regardless of their country, culture or status. While the UDHR established universal human rights as the standard, the universality is not a new concept. For thousands of years, philosophers, religious leaders, and others have believed in the inherent dignity of human beings. They often referred to the natural rights. Beliefs about what specific rights people deserve because of their inherent dignity have changed over the time leading up to the UDHR. Next is equality. The equality is an essential part of human right ethics and the foundation of all human rights. One cannot separate equality from the concept of right. In the UDHR's preamble, the very first line read as follows: whereas recognition of the inherent dignity of the equal and inalienable rights of all the members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice, and peace in the world. Equality means discrimination is unacceptable. No person should be favored over other because of their race, ethnicity, color, gender, age, language, religion, sexual orientation, national origin, or any other status as long as discrimination exists. Human rights are being violated. How does the world become equal? First, there must be equity. Equity recognitions that certain groups have been privileged while others were discriminated against. To achieve equality, historically disadvantaged groups need to be centered and essentially paid back the resource, education, and other things that they have been cut off from. This level the field for everyone. Next is participation. Ability to participate in the processes and decisions that affect persons' well-being and life is the third human-based right ethics that includes political and public participation, which is essential for promoting democratic governance, economic development, social illusion, and more. Human rights are never fulfilled by limiting participation to a select few. What seems like good policy for one group might bring harm to another. When everyone participates, this issue becomes known and addressed, preventing injustice. Participation is linked to several rights like freedom of expression, the right to assembly, and the right to information. There are many obstacles to participation, including education. Without a good education, it can be very difficult for someone to be taken seriously. Whether they want to join a school board or run a public of barrier to the participation can involve direct and indirect discrimination, which is when a policy applies to everyone but ends up disadvantaging selected group. The society must const- consistently examine this barrier and work to dismantle them. Next is interdependence. Interdependence rights are irrelatable and interdependent. That means we can't pick and choose which human right matter and which one don't. They are all necessary for the people to thrive and live in the peace and safety. Has and explained, the right to freedom from discrimination affects someone access to education and healthcare. The right to education and information affects the right to take part in the government. When one human right is violated, it is a domino effect on others' right. Recognition the interdependence of right is essential for those responsible for protecting and promoting them. Government cannot ignore violation because their beliefs rights aren't that important compared to others. Next is the rule of law. The rule of law is the last human right ethics. In the UN system, it is the principle of the governance that hold government institution and public accountable to the human right laws. Whenever there is a violation of human rights, the abuser must be held accountable according to the international human rights standard. The rule of law is an essential ethnic because it turns universal right from an idea into reality. It is primary enforcement mechanism. Equality, fairness, participation, and transparency are the important in lawmaking process and enforcement of the law. The rule of law is necessary for the international peace, security, economic development, and social progress. Without law, there is no check on the human right abuses or a framework to ensure rights like education, healthcare, etc. are provided to everyone, like human right in general. The five ethics that is universality, equality, participation, interdependence, and rule of law are knit together and can't be fulfilled without each other. Moving further towards morals. The moral values has a binding force of the human right. Everything that takes place in law from the creation of the human right to their application has been accompanied, motivated and justified with the certain values. These values are inherent of the human rights and the word inherent which mention also uses is a virtual synonym for natural. Inherent means an existing in something has a permanent attribute or quality, especially a characteristics or essential element of something belonging to intrinsic nature of that which is spoken of. The term inherent is repeatedly used as most recently in the Declaration on the Elimination of All Forms of Intolerance and of Discrimination based on religion belief, adopted by the UN General Assembly on 25th of November 1981. The dignity and the equality inherent in all human beings, sometimes quite similar, appears in the African chapter of Human and People's Right, fundamental human right system from the attributes of the human being. Thus, already with the task, it is demonstrated that philosophy of law studies typical value relation of law. Therefore, the operation of lawyer must be determined by the value judgment manifested in the positive legal state regulation of the human right. Because values are the absolute guarantee. According to the law of nature, all men alike are friends of one another and are bound together by common interest. That is why the sword is not given to the magistrate for his own good alone, but for all. In addition to the orientation of law towards the value, the deformalization of the object accomplished in this way has well. Value path of the human right should be the object of the jurisprudence and main ingredient of law. Value and human rights are often violated in such as referred manner that such injuries cannot be sanctioned by law, that is punishment by law, which is itself often violated values. Actually, the subordination of the value in the relation to the positive law is indispensably derived from the objective nature of values, for it is a duty of a man to set his rule in a compliance with values, because we cannot accept the following: whatsoever pleased the sovereign has a force of law. This is the reason why law is often defined as an ethical minimum, and also because we really do act within the moral world. The minimum value program of the human right contains the provision that we account for the ecological content of the human right entity, that is to say its value feature, whereas the utmost requirement is that jurisprudence should not be only descriptive but should evaluate the entire legal system, the human rights and all the elements from the standpoint of value, because non-values are holistic, humane, generic. The value are indispensable support for the responsible in the secularized society and in a state where a valid life for people is possible only through the respect of values, because the right of the citizen rests upon the right of man. At the same time, there are manifestations of truth about the progress of the implementation of the human rights. We realize that from the tragedy of the human right that values are inscribed law heart for the answers to the question who show the work of the law written in the hearts is the value given by the creator, because there are axiological face of the human right. Any legal system which tend to be persuasive and obliging has to find its place in the world of the human right, and every turning away from that value search is harmful for law. In the Gustav Radbruch opinion, the law is a man's project, but as such, it can only be comprehended through his idea solely, which can be regarded as a value. Legal norms as a command must be directed only towards the value and human rights, so as to emerge out of the ocean of the morass of fact. The rejection of value judgment of the human right leads to strictly factual description of the obvious action, as seen in the concentration camps. So, legal positivism, which insists on the rejection of the value, has a binding force on human rights, bring itself into the danger of the historical objective that prevent us from calling spade a spade, and it brings into the danger the kind objectivity which requires previous assessment, that is to say the objectivity of interpretation. This attitude of legal positivism devoid of the values has a binding force of human rights lead directly to the legislation and legal action to the totalitarian regime. This could be completely possible if we accept the existence of the law without values. If law does not contain values, it will be divided into judging the social phenomenon. Thank you guys. Like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you. We'll meet soon in next video. Thank you.